Because Yogananda's life was not that long ago in terms of history, because Swami Kriyananda's life was even more recent, having passed away just over a decade ago, many of us and many people that we know knew Swami Kriyananda deeply and personally and in many, many circumstances. He often stood right where I'm standing and spoke to this temple, and many of you were in the room during those experiences. And then Swami would talk to us about his time with Master and life with Yogananda, what it was like. He wrote about it and he spoke about it very, very often. And because things were filmed and kept, you can just go onto the internet and listen to him talk as vividly as we were able to hear him when he was standing here. As a result of that, at least from my perspective, because Swamiji's consciousness was so expanded and so different from the world the way I saw it, except that we went through the same experiences in this world, driving in the car, going to the restaurant, going into court and being sued, and various things that you had to do that in life, and having money and not having money, and blah, 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 it goes on and on. Even the most elevated stories now that I read about very advanced souls, to me there's always a very, very human element in it. Jesus at the Last Supper in the Bible, he makes a reference to, this being close to the end of his life and so on, and the disciples can't quite figure out exactly what he's saying, so they ask John to ask Jesus a more direct question. And it's just, you read all that in the Bible, and now it's so vivid, it's so fixed as scripture that you forget that these were just people really not that different from us, with a very, very good karma to be there with Jesus, and you see it acting out in a very personal way. Somehow or another, John could get away with things that none of the other disciples could get away with. And believe me, I watched that often with Swami. He would respond very, very differently to different people at different times. I often rebelled against things that Swami would say, or I would insist that he explain them to me, and when I was really intent on it, I would just keep after him, trying to change his mind. And I remember most of the time he was very patient, but at one point he said to me, "Asha, you always agree with me in the end, so just be quiet." And I thought, oh, okay, he's heard me, he's rejecting it, just accept it. So I'm thinking of this story from the life of the Buddha, which is one of the more beautiful stories. If you really want to read about the Buddha, there's a poetic rendition of his life by Edwin Arnold called The Light of Asia. From the point of view of poetry, it's exquisite. And if you really want to feel the life of the Buddha, it's the most beautiful way to do it. In this story in there, it's told, and this is the story of a woman whose baby died. And since this is the day between the two death anniversaries of Yogananda and his guru Sri Yukteswar, and two of our friends, as I was saying earlier, have passed away in the last few days, I'm thinking of it. So there's a woman, and again, these are real stories of real people. These are not allegories made up by angels. A woman's baby dies. Hard to imagine anything more heartbreaking than that experience, which I know many families have been through. So she does not want to accept that this baby is not going to live. So there's a holy man, we call him now the Buddha. There's a holy man, and holy men have power over life or death. So she carries the body of her child. She's not willing to give up the body of the child. Now think about this. There's probably a father and her parents and other siblings around, and the woman's baby has died. And she is not going to accept that this baby has died. And then also comes into it, oh, I have faith. I have faith in the miracle of God. I have faith in the holy man. So she carries the body of her child to the Buddha and says, my baby has died. And the Buddha is the soul of compassion. And so at first, of course, he must be very sympathetic to her. He's not going to say, oh yeah, he's dead, so what? Happens to lots of people. I mean, nothing like that. You go to God for comfort, so he comforts her. And then she says, make my baby live again. He says, well, I need something to make that happen. So I want you to bring some oil to me. Just ordinary oil. Did he ask for olive oil? Who knows? Ordinary oil. He said, and gather from your neighbor some oil. The woman, can you imagine the joy in her heart? This holy man has said, all I have to do is bring him some oil. And the implication, at least, is then my baby will live again. And then just as she's going away, he says, oh yes, but you must gather the oil from a household which has never been touched by death. Oh, well, that's even, I can do that. Anything to make my child live. So then, of course, she goes from house to house to house to house, and everyone is willing to give her oil, but then she says, has this household ever been touched by death? Well, my mother, my ancient mother died. The servant died. The child died. She goes from house to house to house to house. She cannot find anywhere in her village a household that has not been touched by death. And so then, of course, she understands. She understands more deeply than if Buddha had just said to her, well, everybody dies. She goes and she seeks herself for an alternative, another reality than the reality that has touched her. And so finally she comes back. Is she still carrying the body of her child? Has she been willing to put that child down to be cremated? We don't know. But she comes back changed, humbled, and ready not merely to declare what reality is, but now to listen. And then the Buddha can really comfort her, because he can comfort her with truth. You can't comfort, you don't really comfort someone when you tell them something that simply isn't so.